Thank you for choosing Navigator Forklifts. This short video is intended to provide general operation and safety guidelines for the Navigator Forklift. This video, in combination with the operator's guidebook and general forklift safety training, should prepare an operator for safe, efficient use of the Navigator truck-mounted forklift. The first thing to consider is the difference between a conventional forklift and a Navigator truck-mounted forklift. A conventional forklift carries a load in front of the front wheels. A large counterweight at the rear of the conventional forklift allows it to counterbalance a load. The load on a conventional forklift remains in the same position during transit. The front wheels will remain the fulcrum point at all times. The fulcrum point is the point at which the forklift will pivot if the load exceeded the counterbalanced weight. The Navigator truck-mounted forklift has little or no counterbalance weight added. The Navigator uses a reach mast and stabilizer legs in order to lift heavy loads but remain light enough to be transported on the rear of the truck. With the stabilizer legs in the up position, the fulcrum point is at the center of the front wheel. By placing the stabilizer legs in the down position, the fulcrum point is moved forward, allowing a heavy load to be lifted. Once the load is lifted, the load can be moved toward the center of the Navigator. This transfers the combined center of gravity for the load and the forklift and allows the stabilizer legs to be raised and the load to be transported. The stabilizer legs should only be raised when the load is fully retracted. Another important consideration is how the steering and turning radius of the Navigator differs from that of a passenger car or truck. A passenger car steers from the front. The rear of the car follows along a certain arc. The center of this arc for a passenger car is the point of axis. The Navigator can turn on its own axis. Its rear wheel steers, causing the Navigator to pivot on either its right or left front wheel, depending on the direction of travel. This means the front wheel, right or left, is both the center of the arc and the point of axis. Each day before use, the forklift operator should perform a pre-operational inspection. Any portion of this inspection that is not passed should be reported immediately. The forklift should then be taken out of service until the unit is repaired, retested, and passes inspection. The operator should inspect the rims, tires, and wheels. Rims should be free of cracks and dents. Tires should be free of cuts, gouges, or any objects embedded in the tire. Tires should be properly inflated according to the manufacturer's specification. Under or overinflated tires can cause the forklift to become unstable, even on flat ground. Tires should be free of excessive wear. Check the engine compartment. Check the ground beneath the forklift for any signs of leaks. Report leaks immediately. Check all fluid levels. Make sure to perform these checks on level ground. Check the engine oil, engine coolant, and hydraulic fluid. When checking the hydraulic fluid, make sure all hydraulic cylinders are fully retracted. Inspect all belts and hoses for frayed, loose, or worn conditions. Inspect exhaust system for leaks. Inspect the fuel tank and hoses. Check the fuel level. Make sure the fuel cap is tight and secure. Visually inspect fuel lines for signs of leakage or wear. Inspect the mast, carriage, and forks. Look for damaged or missing bolts. Replace only with bolts of the same specifications as the original. Inspect mast channel for cracks, broken welds, or warping. Look for unusual wear on the chain, guides, pulleys, or inside the mast channel. The chain should be flexible, and chain lubricant must be evident in areas where pins come in contact with the link plates. Rollers should operate smoothly but not have excessive play. The lift cylinder should be free of leaks, loose mounts, or any sign of structural failure. Check all hoses for loose fittings, cracks, or punctures. Check control valves for leaks and ease of operation. Control valves that stick or do not operate properly must be repaired. Inspect fork carriage for structural failure. All guide blocks should be tightened. Look for cracks or stress at fork heels and attachment points. Check fork lock pins to ensure that the forks are locked securely into place. The lock pins should be complete and in good working order. Examine forks from head-on to check for misalignment or bent forks. Inspect the controls and gauges. Test all warning devices for proper operation, including backup alarm, strobe light, and cargo lights. Test lift controls, mast extend, mast tilt, stabilizer legs, and side shift. Test steering controls for excessive play and full motion and adjust as necessary. In this section, you will learn how to properly mount and operate the Navigator truck-mounted forklift. Here are some general rules that should be followed by anyone operating a Navigator forklift. Always know the capacity of the forklift and the weight of your load. Never exceed the rated capacity of the forklift. Always wear your seatbelt while operating the forklift. When traveling with a load, always have the mast as far back and as low as the load will permit. When traveling empty, extend the forks all the way out and keep them as low as possible. Never travel without full visibility. Use a load spotter if necessary. Before mounting the Navigator, inspect the mounting system. Examine the trailer and mount daily to look for any structural failures. Examine the hook pins before mounting the forklift. Replace bent or damaged pins. Check the mounting hooks on the forklift for any cracks or damage. Inspect tire or frame bumpers for cracks or missing parts. Do not use the mount if any components are missing, bent, or broken. To preheat the engine cylinders, turn the key counterclockwise until the preheat coil glows. The preheat indicator is located on the control panel. When the cylinders are preheated, the preheat indicator light will glow. Turn the key clockwise to start the engine. When mounting a Navigator, extend the mast fully forward. Raise the forks to the proper height to engage the fork pocket. Tilt the forks forward slightly in order to clear the rear fork support. Drive into the fork pocket until the forks are fully engaged. Lift the Navigator slightly using the forks down control. Tilt forward using the tilt back control. Raise the Navigator until the frame of the forklift is slightly below the frame of the truck. Adjust the height using the fork's up and down control to make sure the hooks clear the receiver pins fully. Never force the hooks over the pins. When the Navigator is resting on the receiver pins, make sure to relieve the pressure on the hydraulic cylinders by pushing the mast controls fully forward and backwards. Also, retract the mast as far back as possible. Dismount the Navigator and attach the safety chains, safety pins, and pigtail wiring harness. When unloading a trailer or other raised surface, make sure the load is stable and secure. Divide the load if it exceeds load capacity of the forklift. Adjust the forks to pick up the load evenly. Raise the forks to load level. Approach the load squarely at its center and drive into the load until its forks are into the load fully. Allow the forklift tires to go under the trailer as far as possible, being careful not to hit the trailer with the forklift. Lower the stabilizer legs. Tilt the load back to stabilize it. Raise the load just enough to clear the trailer deck. Retract the mast fully. Raise the stabilizer legs off the ground. Slowly back up just enough that the load clears the trailer. Lower the load as far as possible for travel. When loading a trailer or other raised surface, approach the trailer squarely, keeping the mast fully retracted and the load tilted back for stability. Raise the load just high enough to clear the loading surface. Drive under the trailer as far as the tires will allow, being careful not to hit the trailer with the forklift. Lower the stabilizer legs. Extend the mast forward to place the load on the loading surface. Tilt the load forward until it is even with the loading surface and lower fully. Raise the stabilizer legs. Back out of the load completely. When picking up a load, make sure the load is stable and secure. Divide the load if it exceeds load capacity of the forklift. Adjust the forks to pick up the load evenly. With the mast extended fully, approach the load squarely at its center and drive into the load until the forks are into the load fully. Lower the stabilizer legs. Make sure the ground is firm enough to support them. Tilt the load back to stabilize it. Raise the load off the ground just enough to clear obstacles. Use side shift to center the load if necessary. Retract the mast fully. Raise the stabilizer legs. When traveling with a load, always travel straight up and down an incline, never across it. Travel with the forks pointed uphill. Travel downhill in reverse. Use slower speeds when traveling on an incline. Do not make turns on an incline. Do not tilt, raise, lower, or extend the mast while traveling on an incline. When traveling on an incline or across rough terrain, engage the traction lock if necessary. Only engage the traction lock when traveling in a straight line. The traction lock distributes hydraulic fluid to all 3 drive tires evenly. The traction lock should only be used for short periods of time. When the traction lock is engaged, increase the engine RPMs. Depress the directional pedal slightly forward or backwards. If you depress the directional pedal too far, it will stall the engine. If picking up a load makes the forklift feel unstable or unsafe in any manner, divide the load or do not pick it up. In the event of a tip-over, the seat belt can save your life. The overhead guard on the Navigator is designed to protect the driver on all sides in case of a tip-over. If the machine begins to tip, hold on to the steering wheel or the bottom of your seat with both hands. Keep your feet planted on the foot platform and lean away from the direction of the tip. The seat belt, and the overhead guard are designed to protect you. Never attempt to jump away from the forklift during a tip-over. The forklift can easily roll on top of an exiting driver, causing severe injuries and in many cases death. When parking the forklift, completely remove your foot from the directional pedal. Set the parking brake. Lower forks to the ground and turn the key to the off position. Remove your seat belt and dismount the forklift using the 3-point rule. If the forks will not extend into the load fully, it can be double forked to move it closer to the edge of the bed. Carefully tilt the load back to stabilize it. Lift it off the bed slightly. Using the mast extension control, pull the load back to the edge of the bed. Tilt the load back to a level position and lower it to the bed. If the load will not fit inside the forklift frame, raise it until it is just above the level of the frame, and then retract the mast fully.